Hello class, let us continue for our topic sa analytic geometry, which is our part 2, which is conic sections. So conic sections, or simply conic, is the locus of a point which moves so that its distance from fixed point, which is our focus, is inconstant. E, which is eccentricity, to its distance from a fixed straight line, which is called as directrix. So the term conic was first introduced by a renowned mathematician and astronomer of antiquity, C. Apollonius. So the term conic section was due to the fact that the section is formed by a plane made to intersect a cone. So let us explain this one. Sabi daw dito, lahat ng forms sa ating conic sections is derived lang sa ating cone, kumbaga. So first one, if we will cut our cone which is parallel to our base, ayan, so mag-cut tayo which is parallel, that is called as a circle. But if we will cut that one sa ating cone which is hindi siya parallel, that is vertical lang siya, or shall I say diagonal, ayan, diagonal sa ating cone, that is called as an ellipse. So diagonal siya from one side to our another side na diagonal. So next one, parabola naman yung ating ma-produce if we will cut it in a diagonal side pero papunta sa ating base. So as you can see, pag-cut natin is naging parabola. And then last one, if our cut is perpendicular, ibig sabihin ng perpendicular is 90 degrees with our base, ang mabubuo po natin is hyperbola. Okay? So again, circle is produced when cutting plane is parallel to the base of the cone. Ellipse po, if is produced if or when the cutting plane is not parallel or inclined to the base of the cone. Parabola po, ang ma-form is produced when cutting plane is parallel to the element or generatrix of the cone. Then last one is hyperbola, is produced when cutting plane is parallel to the axis of the cone, or yung ating perpendicular to our base. Okay, so for this video, we will be focusing on the conic section, which is the circle. But again, the general equation of any conic section is equivalent to, or ax squared plus bx plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. So, circle man yan, ellipse man yan, parabola or hyperbola, ito yung kanilang general equation. So, when b is not equal to 0, then the principal axis of the conic are inclined or not parallel to the coordinates axis. So the curve can be identified from the equation given by determining the value of its determinant. That is b squared over 4ac. So tandaan nyo to, yung ating general formula, because from that, malalaman natin kung anong klaseng conic section siya by using our formula b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so let's proceed. If the value of our b squared minus 4ac, or our determinant, is less than 0, the conic is an ellipse. So e is less than 1, kumbaga. So if b squared minus 4ac is equivalent to 0, the conic is a parabola, or e is equivalent to 1. But if our determinant, which is b squared minus 4ac, is greater than 0, or e is greater than 1, that is a hyperbola. So when b is equal to 0, then the principal axis of the conic are parallel to the coordinates or axis, x and y axis. So to identify the curve, compare the coefficient a and c. So if a is greater than c, the conic is a circle. If a is not equal to c, but the same signs, the conic is an ellipse. So if either a or c is 0, the conic is a parabola. So yan yung pagdetermine natin if ellipse, parabola, hyperbola, or a circle. Okay? So the conic section have geometric properties that can be used for some engineering applications such as beams of sound and reflection of ray and light. So here we have a sample diagram for our circle, ellipse, parabola, and hyperbola. So as I have said earlier, we will be focusing for this video sa ating circles. So circle is a focus of a point that which moves so that it is equidistant from fixed point called the center. So ibig sabihin po, if we have our circle and then we have our center, yung any part or any point in that circle is same lang po ng distance, which is called as, kaya nga sabing equidistant, papunta po sa ating center, which is tinatawag natin na radius, kumbaga. So the general equation for our circle is equivalent to, or ang formula niya is x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. So if d and e natin is equivalent to 0, the center is at our origin, or in our origin of our x and y axis. If either d or e or both d and e is not equivalent to 0, the center is at h and k. So ano yung tinatawag natin na h and k? Ito-topic natin mamaya. Okay? So the standard equation, for example, ang center natin is nasa 0, or d and e natin is equivalent to 0. So therefore, cancel out lang tong dalawa, kumbaga. So transfer lang to the other side, then i-squared mo lang. That is equivalent to x squared plus y squared is equivalent to r squared. So kaya nga h and k is 0 kasi wala siya, kumbaga. So how about if yung ating center is not exactly na nasa ating origin? So yung ating form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to r squared. So ganito yung figure niya, kumbaga. So when the equation gives or given is general equation rather than the standard equation, the center hk of the circle and its radius r can be determined by converting the general equation to the standard using the process known as completing the square or using the following formula. So again, pag given natin is general equation, you need to know the center, dapat nating i-convert into standard equation, which is this one. So paano pa-convert? Ganito po yung pag-convert sa kanya. So general equation natin, which is ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. Ang pagkuha po ng ating h is equivalent to negative d. So you need the value of our d divided by 2a. While the value of our k can be obtained by equivalent of negative e divided by 2a. And again, r natin can be solved using this formula, which is the square root of d squared plus e squared minus 4af divided by 4e squared pag individual. So again, pwede din gamitan natin ng completing the square. So discuss lang natin first what is completing the square na tinatawag. So for example, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Ang ibig sabihin ng completing the square class is you need the value of your b, i-divide mo lang into 2, and i-square mo siya. So yung result na niyan is i-add mo lang dito. So pag sa kabilang side is i-subtract mo. So that is b over 2 squared. Okay, so without much further ado, let us proceed with our first example for our circle. So what are the coordinates of the center of the curve x squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 4y minus 31. So ang hahanapin po daw natin, class, is the center or the h and k value for this circle. So again, pag hinahanap natin yung h and k, pwede natin gamitin yung formula kanina, and pwede din natin i-transform this equation, which is naka-general equation, into a standard equation using completing the square. Okay? So take note, isulat lang natin first yung ating standard equation. So that is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to r squared. So we will be using completing the square. So sulat muna natin, class, yung formula natin or general formula. X squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 4y minus 31 is equivalent to 0. So, first thing is i-combine like terms natin or ipagtabi natin yung mga same ng ating same ng variables. So, magiging x squared minus 2x then plus, lagyan natin ng space, plus y squared minus 4y, then ilipat natin yung isa to the other side. Magiging positive 31. Okay, so we will apply completing the square. So for this part, eto na part po, ayan, ano ba yan? Erase. Eto na part, yung ating b dito is 2. 'Di ba? Or negative 2. Okay lang 'yan. So, for our completing the square, that is b over 2, then open and close parenthesis squared, that is equivalent to negative 2 over 2 squared. So, therefore, that is equivalent to negative 1 squared ng negative 1 is positive 1. So, that is 1 here. 'Di ba? Then this one, in this part, same pa din, b squared or b over 2 squared. That is equivalent to negative 4. Okay lang pag negative and positive, same lang din yung result kasi naka-squared tayo, no? So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Squared natin is 4 or positive 4. So therefore, again, sabi natin kanina, i-add natin siya dito plus 1. And dito sa kabila is plus 4. So therefore, sa kabila, para ma-balance siya, same lang din, gawin nating itong 1 or plus 1 na kasi nilipat lang din natin, no? So kanina, pag i-add mo, magiging negative 1 or plus 1 minus 1. Yun yung sabi ko kanina. Pero transfer natin to the other side, magiging positive 1 pa din. So plus 1 and plus 4. Ayan. So, parang balance pa din siya, kumbaga. And then again, i-completing the square natin, magiging complete or complete root siya or squared root, kumbaga. This is x, then negative 1 squared. Ayan. So, next one is eto, y, negative 2 squared. Ayan. So, parang binalik natin from FOIL method, kumbaga. Okay? Sa kabila naman, 31 plus 1 is 32, plus 4 is 36. So, that is 36. So, in this form, ayan, malalaman natin yung value ng ating center. So, take note, x minus h, y minus k. So, therefore, dito po, ang h natin is not negative 1. Ayan, common mistake ha. Negative 1, dapat i-alter or different natin yung ating sign, positive 1. Kasi minus dito eh. Then dito sa kabila, ang k natin is positive 2. Ayan. So therefore, by inspection, h natin is 1 and k natin is 2. And for example, hahanapin, no, yung ating center, ang ating coordinate is 1 and 2. Sir, what if hahanapin yung radius? So take note, r squared yung ating radius. So therefore, that is 36. So therefore, r, square root mo lang sa kabila, that is 6 yung radius natin. Okay, so let's proceed with our next example. So, sa next example natin, what is the radius? Yan yung hinahanap natin. So same lang yung process kanina. No, naturo ko naman din kanina kung paano kunin yung radius. So, we have an equation of our circle, x squared minus 6x plus y squared minus 4y minus 12 is equivalent to 0. So, let us just repeat kung ano yung ginawa natin kanina. Sulat lang po muna natin yung h and k natin, kumbaga. Then, yung standard natin na formula. That is equivalent to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to r squared. So therefore, again, we will be using our completing the square for this one. So, sulat natin si general formula, x squared minus 6x plus y squared minus 4y minus 12 is equivalent to 0. So, mas maganda, no? Kasi na-separate na siya. Ang gagawin na lang natin is let us move this one na merong space in between. Ayan. So, lagyan natin ng space, kumbaga. Minus 4y, another space, then equal or equivalent to positive 12. Okay? So, repeat lang natin yung completing the square kanina. That is b over 2 squared is equivalent to, first one is eto. That is negative 6, diba? Yung ating b. Negative 6 over 2. Then, squared natin siya, magiging negative 3. Then, squared is positive 9. Ayan. So, 9. So, how about dito, banda sa kabila, ang ating b squared or b over 2 squared dito is negative 4 over 2 squared. So, same kanina. That is negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. Or you can just use your calculator para sure, kumbaga. Basta lahat ng completing the square, positive talaga yung lumalabas kasi squared kasi siya. Okay? So, therefore, this is plus 9. This is plus 4. Same kanina, no? Pag nandito, minus 9, pero ilipat natin to the other side, magiging plus 9 siya ulit, and plus 4. Okay. So, therefore, completing the square tayo, x, then negative man dito, so negative 3 squared. Plus, dito is y, then negative 4, then 4, so therefore that is negative 2 squared is equivalent to 12 plus 9 is 21 plus 4 is 25. Ayan. So, therefore, ilagay lang po natin, sulat na lang natin siya, hindi naman tayo nagmamadali, no? So, squared plus y minus 2 squared is equivalent to the square root of 25. Lagay natin, that is 5 squared. So, therefore, this is 5 squared. Okay? So, again, for our standard equation, makukuha natin ang h po natin dito is positive 3. Again, pag negative, gawin mong positive. And yung ating k is equivalent to positive 2. Okay? So, that is by inspection. And then, therefore, ang coordinate ng ating center is equivalent to 3 and 2, and its radius, kumbaga, is equivalent to 5. And we're done with our second problem sa ating circle. Okay, so how about this one? Last problem for our circle. We are tasked to sketch. Sketch daw natin yung ating circle, which is naka-standard form. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equivalent to 16. So take note, sulat lang po muna natin yung ating standard equation. This is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to r squared. So take note, class, by inspection, malalaman natin na h is equivalent to positive 2 and yung ating k is equivalent to positive 3 and yung ating radius, which is the square root of 16, which is 4. So if we will sketch this one, para siyang ganito, yan, ito yung ating center, 2 and 3, then radius natin is 4. So gawin mo lang yung radius, magsukat ka lang ng 4, then draw our circle. Okay? And I think that's it, no? are simple problems for our circle. So the equation is in the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to r squared. Center is nasa 2 and 3, and radius is equivalent to 4. Our next conic section is parabola. It is a locus of a point which moves so that it is always equidistant to a fixed point called focus and to a fixed straight line called directrix. Ayan po. So for example, this is your parabola. Yan, lagyan natin. No? So this is your parabola, kumbaga, na figure. And this is your focus and this is your directrix na line. So ang ibig sabihin lang po niyan, class, matatawag natin siya na parabola if any point here, pag susukatin natin siya papunta sa focus, then papunta sa directrix, we have the same distance. For example, itong point na to, papunta sa focus, papunta sa directrix natin, same lang din yung distance niya. So etong dalawa and then for example, etong dalawa. So, D1, D1, D2, and D2. That is the definition for parabola. So, we have our equations. Ito yung tinatawag natin na general equation, no? Axis parallel to the y-axis. Pag yung ating axis daw is parallel sa ating y-axis, yung ating equation is ax squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. But if our axis is parallel to our x-axis, kumbaga baliktad siya dito, that is cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. Okay, so take note A is the distance from our vertex to our f or our v to our f. Then f is our focal distance. Ibig sabihin, if we have a point, yan yung ating from f to our parabola na point. Okay, so take note of this one. Vertex is V at origin. So if yung vertex daw natin is nasa origin, ito yung ating mga standard equations. So for our axis along x-axis, y squared is equivalent to 4ax. Opens to the right. So let us draw this one. Kumbaga, if we have our x-axis and our y-axis, the drawing of this one, y squared is equivalent to 4ax, opens to the right. Ibig sabihin, nasa gitna yung ating vertex and opens to the right. So how about if our standard equation is y squared is equivalent to negative 4ax? So for example, we have our y-axis and x-axis. Okay. That is opens to the left. So, same pa din. Yung ating vertex is nasa origin and then opens to the left. So, ito yung figure na mabubuo natin. Or yung ating expected na figure. So, for example, we are along or axis along y-axis. If our equation or standard equation for that parabola is x squared is equivalent to 4ay, ang ibig sabihin po niyan, we are expecting a drawing for our parabola which opens upward or opens up. And then, yung ating nasa baba, no? That is x squared is equivalent to negative 4ay, that is opens or open down or open downward. So therefore, again, vertex is nasa center, nasa baba yung ating pag-open. So at least, isang glance mo lang, alam mo na yung drawing or yung figure ng ating parabola. Okay, so next one, what if yung ating vertex is wala sa ating center? That is, eto yung ating mga standard equation for that one. So again, axis parallel to our x-axis, that is y minus k squared is equivalent to positive 4ax minus h. So for this one, opens to the right. So we are expecting na yung drawing natin is, even though na yung ating parabola is wala sa center, no, or origin yung ating vertex, but for example nandito, no, it always opens to the right. So for example, here we have y minus k squared is equivalent to negative 4ax minus h. We are expecting sa drawing natin sa parabola na opens to the left. So for example, nandito yung ating h and k. na coordinates opens to the left. And next one, what if yung axis natin is parallel to our y-axis? So that is x, yung squared natin, minus h squared, ayan, is equivalent to 4a y minus h. Again, we are expecting na it opens to the right. Again, this is wrong. Ayan, this is opens upward. So, hindi lang na-edit, kumbaga. Upward. O, opens up, kumbaga. Okay, so therefore, eto, for example, nandito yung kanyang vertex. And then dito, mali din to, opens downward or downward. Ayan. Okay, so, technical lang na mistakes. Okay? So, therefore, pag ganyan, for example, nandito yung vertex, ganito yung ating figure, kumbaga. So, at least may clue tayo. Open downward if x minus h squared is equivalent to negative 4a x minus h. So, yan lang yung kaibahan nila. No, may h tsaka k siya. Ito din mali, no? And this is k and this is h, no? Error lang sa pag-type, kumbaga. Okay? So, let's proceed with this one. K yun na. X minus k, kumbaga. So, eccentricity natin, the ratio of the distance to the focus to the distance of our directrix. Diba, na-topic natin yan kanina. That is f over d. So, since f is equivalent to d, eccentricity natin is equivalent to 1. Diba? Kanina, sabi natin yung f and d, if we are referring to our parabola na conic section, dapat equal sila parate. So, f divided by d is always 1. So, you don't need to solve, kumbaga, kung itatanong. Pag parabola, automatic 1. Okay. So, again, malito, that is x minus k. Okay. So, for this one, a line that passes through the focus and perpendicular to the axis of the conic LR is equivalent to 4a. So, when the equation gives is general equation rather than the standard equation, the vertex v, which is h and k of the parabola and its focal length slash radius can be calculated by converting the general equation to the standard. Same sa ginawa natin or ginagawa natin sa ating circle. So, you just need to transfer it, yung ating general equation, into a standard equation. So, meron din tayong formula, again, kung gusto mo na naka-specific. But if ayaw mo, pwede mong i-memorize yung ating standard formula using completing the square. Ayan. So, do you have cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. Pag hahanapin mo yung h, that is e squared minus 4cf over 4cd. Pag k yung hahanapin mo, that is simply negative e over 2c. And if a, yung hahanapin mo, that is negative d over 4c. So, for axis, which is vertical, that is ax squared plus dx plus ey plus f, that is equivalent to 0. Ang k po natin, no, parang baliktad siya. Ang k yung medyo mataas, which is d squared minus 4af divided by 4ae. Yung h natin is negative d over 2a. And yung a natin is equivalent to negative e over 4a. Okay. So, para ma-apply natin lahat ng mga formulas kanina, let us have our example number 1 for our parabola. Diba? So, the focus of the parabola, y squared is equivalent to 16x is at, so hinahanap natin yung focus natin. Kumbaga na coordinates. Okay. So, let us try this one. Take note, isusulat muna natin yung ating standard formula. As you can see here, we have our standard formula is y squared is equivalent to 4ax. Take note, positive naman din tong nandito. So therefore, by inspection, gawin natin is 4a is equivalent ng lahat ng katabi ni x, which is si 16. So therefore, we will divide yung right tsaka left natin into 4. So, 16 divided by 4 is equivalent to 4. Ayan. So, ang A po natin is nasa 4. So, take note, pag nasa y squared natin, A is our parang x na coordinate. So, therefore, our focus is equivalent to 4 and 0. Ayan. 0, yung ating y, kasi, again, yung kaniyang vertex is nasa center. So, 0, 0, kumbaga. So, automatic, yung ating focus, again, di ba? If we will have our drawing, ayan, focus is A, then automatic 0. And that's our answer. Focus is at 4, 0. Okay. So next example, find the equation of the directrix of the parabola y squared is equivalent to 16x. So as you can remember, yung tinatawag natin na directrix is yung line, no? Na same lang siya ng distance sa ating kahit saang point sa ating parabola papunta sa ating focus. Okay. So, paano kunin? Take note, again, ang formula natin for this one is y squared is equivalent to 4ax. Diba? And then, the formula for our directrix is equivalent to negative a. So, that is the equation of our directrix. Diba? Hindi siya point, but rather than an equation. Kasi line kasi siya. Equation of a line, kumbaga. So, therefore, by inspection ulit, 4a natin is equivalent to 16. Ayan, yung lahat ng katabi ng x. So, therefore, ang a po natin is, again, that is 4. No? Okay. So, therefore, yung ating equation of our directrix is just x is equivalent to negative a. So, therefore, x is equivalent to negative. Then, a natin is 4. So, that is x is equivalent to negative 4. So, if we will draw that one, eto, for example, this is our origin, kumbaga 0, 0. So, the location of our directrix is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the line which is x is equivalent to negative 4. Negative kasi nasa left side siya. So, yan lang, kumbaga. Next one, or our last example for our parabola. So, what if ang hinahanap natin is yung focus of the parabola? Ito, same siya kanina pero different for the reason that yung equation natin is medyo mahirap because yung kaniyang center or yung kaniyang focus is, yung kaniyang vertex is wala sa center or sa centroid natin, kumbaga. Okay? So, or sa origin natin. Okay? So, ang gagamitin natin dito is completing the square pa din. Same sa ginagawa natin sa ating circle. Okay? So, find the location of the focus of the parabola y squared plus 4x minus 4y is equivalent to 8 or minus 8 is equivalent to 0. So, again, sulat muna natin yung ating original or yung ating tinatawag natin na standard equation for this one. That is y minus k squared is equivalent to negative 4a then x minus h. Ayan siya. Okay, so gagawan lang natin ng paraan para maging ganitong form, yung ating general form maging standard form. Okay, so first thing is ililipat natin lahat to the other side, sa right side, yung x tsaka yung walang variable. Then yung iiwan lang natin dito na side is yung merong may squared, which is si y. So y squared minus 4y is equivalent to 4x or magiging negative 4x na siya plus 8. Ayan, so na-alter na yung sign niya, kumbaga. Okay, next thing that we need to do is completing the square, diba? So, remind lang natin, completing the square is b squared or b over 2 squared. So, yung b natin dito, class, is negative 4 divided by 2, then square lang natin siya, which is negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, square mo siya, that is positive 4. So, therefore, we will add here positive 4. Sa kabila din po, lalagyan natin ng plus 4. And then, completing the square. So, for this one, negative yung nasa gitna. Therefore, yung kanyang completing the square is negative 2 squared. Sa kabila naman, isimplify lang natin. Negative 4x, 8 plus 4 is obviously positive 12. So, dapat nakaganitong form. So, ang gagawin natin is to factor out our negative 4. So, dito, copy natin y minus 2 squared. Meron na tayong value ng k. Dito sa kabila, i-factor out natin. I hope that you know how to factor out. That is x. Ayan, nilabas natin. Then, 12 divided by negative 4 kasi yan yung nilabas natin. So, magiging negative 3. So, checking lang, negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. So, ito yung ating equation or standard equation for this one. So, take note lang, if this is our standard equation, then yung hinahanap natin is yung focus, di ba? Yung focus natin is first yung A natin, no? 4A is equivalent to 4. Ayan. No? Kasi pag ganito, pag negative, yung ating standard equation is negative 4a. So, negative 4a natin is negative 4. Ayan, para kompleto. So, therefore, negative 4 divided by negative 4, a po natin is positive 1. Okay? Thus, our equation here is equivalent to, or our focus is 2 and 2 pa din siya. Kumbaga. Okay? So, bakit 2 tsaka 2 siya? Kumbaga. So, ilagay natin dito yung ating, di ba, take note, this is our k, negative 2. Then, our, again, kabaliktaran siya, no? Ang ating k dito is, pag eto negative 2, therefore, isusulat natin is positive 2. And then, for this one, sa ating h natin is equivalent to negative 3. Again, gawin natin siyang positive 3. So, for our gawin lang natin dito for our tawag dito. Hinanap focus. Ayan. Yung focus natin is yung k is 2. 2 pa din siya kasi naka y squared siya. Then yung ating x is just h minus yung ating a. No? So therefore, eto magiging 2. So 3 minus 1 lang siya kumbaga. So para mas klaro, we have here our drawing. Ayan. So, here. And i-move ko lang saglit, class. So, again, our k is positive 2. And our h is equivalent to positive 3. So, again, that is our vertex 3 and 2. So, how to locate your focus? If nasa y squared tayo, that is equivalent to your h minus a, then yung ating k. So as you can see, this is our h, which is 3. Nag-minus a tayo. Ito siya, which is 2. Then yung ating k, which is 2 pa din siya, no, copy mo lang 2. So therefore, this is our focus. 2 and 2. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Ito yung ating solution na naka-type. Again, may mga typo lang dyan. Kagaya nito. No? Wala siyang square dyan. So, to continue, let us discuss about the third conical section, which is called as ellipse. So, ellipse is a locus of a point which moves so that the sum of its distance to a fixed point, which is called as foci, is constant and is equal to the length of the major axis, which is 2a. So, let us discuss this one. For example, ang isang graph po, ang isang figure is called as an ellipse. If you have your focus 1 and focus 2, no? And then, at any point of our ellipse, if we have here our distance 1 and distance 2, is equivalent po sa dalawang A natin or 2A, which is our A is our major axis. So, we have our minor axis, which is yung maliit. na distance and our major axis which is yung malaking distance. So therefore, it is called as an ellipse if D1, okay, that is D1 plus D2 is equivalent to our 2A, which is ang A is yung ating major axis. So for example, if ang ellipse natin is naka-vertical, ganyan, ito yung ating major axis. So ito yung A natin and ito yung B natin. Kumbaga. Okay. So the general equation of our ellipse is same lang din po sa lahat, di ba? That is ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. So same pa din sa ating parabola. We have our directrix or directrices pag dalawa. Ayan, dalawa. Then our c, that is the distance from our center of our ellipse papunta sa ating focus. Then, A is from our center papunta sa ating major axis. And B, pag dito sa minor axis natin. Okay. So, to continue, take note yung sinabi ko kanina na D2 is equivalent to our D1, again, plus D2 is equivalent to 2A, which is 2A is our major axis. And is the distance from our vertex 1 papunta sa ating vertex 2. Also, the relationship between A, B, and C is equivalent to ang B squared daw natin plus C squared is always equivalent to A squared, which is ang A is always greater than B. Diba? Yung A natin na distance is yung pang major axis natin na distance, while B is sa ating minor axis and C is from center to our focus. So, if D and E natin sa general equation is 0, ang ibig sabihin po niyan, class, is the center of our ellipse is nasa origin ng ating axis. If either D or E or both D and E is not equivalent to 0, therefore, ang center natin is wala sa gitna, that is H and K. So, here, are our standard equations for our ellipse. So, for example, if ang center natin is nasa origin, x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equivalent to 1. That is our major axis is horizontal. Ibig sabihin po, if yung nasa x squared na denominator yung mas malaki, ang ibig sabihin po niyan is parang ganito yung ating figure. Pa-horizontal yung ating major axis. While if nasa y squared yung ating mas malaki na denominator, therefore yung ating figure is something like this, no? Pa-vertical yung ating major axis. So, that is origin is at center or center natin is nasa origin. So, what if yung center natin is at any point of HK or wala sa origin? Take note, same pa din kanina. If yung ang value ng ating denominator sa x na may squared is greater than sa value ng ating denominator sa y na may squared, our major axis is horizontal. Ibig sabihin, yung figure natin is something like this, then yung ating center is nasa labas or kahit saan, basta wala siya center sa ating ellipse. So for example, yung denominator ng ating y squared is mas malaki sa denominator ng ating x squared is yung figure natin is something like this. So yung ating center, for example, nasa taas, nasa baba, basta wala sa center ng ating ellipse. So major axis is vertical. Yan ang ibig sabihin niya. Okay? So that is x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared. So ang ituturing natin always na a is yung greater than, yung mas malaki na value. Okay, so how about its eccentricity? The value of our eccentricity. So that is equivalent to c over a or same lang siya na value sa a over d natin. So how about the length of our latus rectum? So our latus rectum, that is the distance from our focus papunta sa outer and sa baba. Ayan. So that is our LR or latus rectum. So that is 2b squared over a. Take note that a is always yung mataas na value. which is, for example, for this figure, this is our A, dito papunta dito. No, major axis. Then, yung ating B, which is yung ating minor axis. So, tinawag siyang semi kasi pag sinabi nating major axis, etong dalawa, 2A, A tsaka A. Kasi isang side lang, so semi, kumaga. So, dito is B and B. So, isang B, that is our semi-minor axis. So, when the equation given is general equation rather than the standard equation, same sa ating circle, same sa ating parabola, the center HK of an ellipse is its focal length. Can be calculated by converting the general equation to a standard equation. Again, same lang, using our completing the square. But if, for example, ayaw mo mag-completing the square, gusto mong diretso, that is C is equivalent to the square root of A squared plus B squared in determining your C. In determining your H, that is negative D over 2A. And in determining your K, that is negative E over 2C. So, parang shortcut siya kung ayaw mong dumaan sa ating completing the square. Okay. So, let us proceed sa ating first example. So, kanina, hindi natin nalagay yung ating formula, which is the area of our curve, which is this one, no? Ellipse siya. So, again, the area of an ellipse is equivalent to, I hope that na-topic na natin to sa mga past topic natin. But again, pag hindi, i-recall lang natin that is pi A multiplied by B. Again, A is our semi-major axis, no? Na length, di ba? Semi-major axis, and B is our semi-minor axis. So, all we need to do is to find the value of our A and B and substitute to our formula. So, for that one, again, let us simplify this one, or let us make this general formula into a standard formula. So, ano yung gagawin natin dyan, sir? So, ang gagawin natin dito is to separate first. 9x squared, sulat ko muna class, plus 25y. What happened? No, that is 25 y squared minus 225 is equivalent to 0. So, therefore, again, yung standard na equation natin, isulat muna natin x squared over a squared, or pwedeng b squared, depende pa rin ha. Then, we have our y squared divided by b squared. So, pwede magkapalit, depende kung sino yung mas malaki. Is equivalent to, lagay natin, tingnan natin, that is equivalent to 1. Ayan. So, is equivalent to 1. Take note, yung ating value ng ating D and E is 0. So, therefore, we can assume that the figure for this one is nasa gitna yung ating centroid, center of our ellipse. So, for that one, ang gagawin lang natin is to transfer yung ating constant sa kabila, magiging 225. And then, again, we will divide everything by 225 para maging 1. So, 9 divided by 225, kindly use your calculator. Ano yung result natin? Again, 9 divided by 225 is 25. Diba? So, x squared over 25. How about this one? What is 25 divided by 225? Paki-calculator po. That is equivalent to, yes, that is equivalent to 9. Is equivalent to 1. Kasi 1, 225 divided by 225. So again, tingnan natin, sino yung mas malaki yung denominator. So as you can see, si x squared yung may mas malaking denominator, which is 25. So therefore, tama tong ginawa natin, which is a squared over b squared. So by inspection, ang a po natin dito is the square root of 25, which is obviously, lagay na lang natin 5. While our b here, which is the square root of our 9, which is equivalent to 3. So, sakto siya na root, which is, or sa square root, which is 3. So, therefore, a is equivalent to, again, sulat na lang natin to, na naka-square root na siya o naka-squared. This is 5 squared plus y squared over 3 squared. Ayan, para kompleto talaga. Is equivalent to 1. So, A is equivalent to pi. Ang A po natin is 5 multiplied by our B, which is 3, which is equivalent to an area of 5 times 3 is 15 pi, or that is, pag i-convert mo, pag pi is 3.1415, etc., etc., that is 47.12 pag 2 decimal places. And take note to put a square unit na sign, square unit. And square units kasi area tayo. So the answer is 15 pi or 47.12 square units. So ganyan lang in determining your area. And then again, na-determine natin yung A at B natin na value. Ayan. So ito yung kanyang figure. Ang A natin is 5. Ayan. Then B natin is 3. So that is our yung isang location ng ating tawag doon. Balikan natin. That is our vertex. So yung isang vertex natin is negative. Yan lang yung kaibahan niya. Negative yung ating A. So nandito sa kabila, negative 5. So A is negative 5 para sa kabila. Dito sa kabila, A. Ano yung bang sinasabi ko? Again that is the location of your center. Ayan. Ano bang sinabi ko? Vertex. So center, that is 3 and 5. Okay. So proceed tayo. Again, that's wrong, no? Again, yung center na pakiulit lang po. Pati ako nalito. Again, this one, wala tayong value ng E tsaka F. So therefore, ang center natin is nasa 0, 0. And then, ang ibig sabihin ng A tsaka B is the distance of our vertex. So if this one is 0, 0, this one is 5 papunta dyan and 5 din papunta dito. So this one is negative 5 and this one is positive 5. Ayan, so nalito ako bigla, no? Then yung B natin na value is our minor axis, which is dito sa taas is positive 3, sa baba is negative 3. Ayan. So, to clear things up, no? Kasi nalito kayo or nalito tayo bigla. Okay, so our next example and our last example for our ellipse is this one. So, the length of the latus rectum for our ellipse, which has an equation of x squared over 64 plus y squared over 16 is equivalent to 1. So, eto medyo advantage na sa atin for the reason that naka-standard equation na siya. So, all we need to do is to determine kung anong equation siya. So, yung a squared ba nasa kay x or na kay y. So, take note, by inspection, pag titingnan natin yung denominator ni x squared yung mas malaki, di ba? Which is 64. Therefore, siya yung ituturing natin na a squared, while yung kay y squared, that is yung ating b squared. So, yung hinahanap natin dito is length of our latus rectum. And then take note, we have a formula kanina. LR natin is equivalent to 2b squared. Pakitingnan lang yung formulas natin kanina. That is 2b squared over a. So, all we need to do is to determine sino yung a tsaka b natin. So, by inspection, here, a squared is equivalent to 64. Diba? So, a natin is the square root of 64, which is equivalent to exactly 8. Then, yung b squared natin is equivalent to 16, which is yung square root naman ng 16 natin is 4. So, therefore, substitute lang natin sa formula ng latus rectum natin, class, which is 2 multiplied by 4 squared divided by a po natin is 8. So, therefore, calculator lang. Okay, natin to. 2, let me just share my calculator. We have here 2, 4 squared over 8. Ayan. So, distance of our LR or our latus rectum is 4. So, share screen natin ulit. Share. LR. And latus rectum is equivalent to 4. So, we have here a type na solution. LR is equivalent to 4. So, balikan natin. Saan banda dito yung tinatawag natin na LR? Ayan siya. That is the distance of your focus papunta sa taas and sa baba. Which is sa ating parallel sa ating minor axis. So, pag ganito, for example, yung figure natin, so this is our focus. Ito yung LR natin. Latus rectum na distance. Okay. So, I think that's it for our topic na ellipse. So the last figure that can be derived from a conical section is called as hyperbola. So it is a locus of a point which moves so that the differences of the distance to the fixed point, which is our foci, we have here a foci, dalawa, no, is constant and is equal to the length of the transverse axis, which is 2a. So ibig sabihin, ito yung a natin from our center of our hyperbola papunta po sa ating vertex. So dalawang ganyan, no? So A and another A is 2A, kumbaga. So ano yung sinasabi na dito na differences? So for example here, we have our point 1. Ito, point 2 dito. Then for example, you have our point 3 dito. So we will explain yung tinatawag din na differences, diba? So from this point, sa ating focus 1, papunta dito, so point 1 papunta dito, and we have another one dito. Just imagine class that is a straight line. Ayan. Then for example here, we have our third one, which is this one. Ayan. So the explanation for this one is something like this. Now, for example, we have our distance 1 and distance 2. Ayan. Distance 3 and distance 4. And we have distance 5 and distance 6. So, sabi dito, the differences of the distances to the fixed point foci is constant. So, therefore, our distance 2 minus distance 1 is equivalent po daw sa distance 4, yung mas mataas, minus distance 3 is also equivalent to our distance 6 minus distance 5. And this measurement is also equal to the length of our transverse axis, which is our 2a. So that's the explanation for that one. Okay? So let us again discuss ano yung mga figure na nandito. For next one is meron tinatawag na directrices. So ito pa rin yung ating directrix na tinatawag. Then ito yung D na distance from our directrix or from our center of our hyperbola. Next one is yung A natin. That is the location from our center papunta po sa ating vertex. The next one is our foci. Again, yan yung tinatawag natin kanina. That is the distance from our center papunta sa ating F, which is yung tinatawag natin na C. How about yung B na tinatawag natin? So yung B class, that is the distance from our vertex or center papunta po sa ating asymptote. So yung asymptote that is a line that will not converge, no, hindi niya natatamaan yung ating dalawang hyperbola. And then yan din yung distance from our V to B, V to our A, kumbaga. So parang makaka-create tayo ng rectangular shape. So that is our asymptote. Meron tayong formula for that one mamaya. Okay? So we have our focus, vertex, center, our A, C, and our B. So, yan yung mga kukunin natin kumbaga mamaya. And yung asymptotes and directrices natin. Okay? So, general formula or general equation if we have a transverse axis or horizontal, which is this one. So, pag tinawag natin na vertical axis, eto lang siya pero kabaliktaran. So, therefore, yung opening natin is nasa itaas and nasa baba. Okay? So, that is just the difference between the two. So, first, unahin natin to. Si transverse axis or horizontal axis. Yung kanyang general equation is ax squared plus cy squared plus bx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. Take note that the transverse axis is the axis that passes through the foci, vertices, and the center of the hyperbola, while the conjugate axis is the one that is perpendicular to the transverse axis. So, for example, no, if we need to find the length of our transverse axis, that is 2a, or that is 2 the square root of c. So, this is our transverse axis. Ayan siya, si A. Ito na measurement. 2a, kumbaga. So, vertex papuntang another vertex. So, length of our conjugate axis is 2b. Ibig sabihin, ito, papunta dito. This is our b and another b. Okay. So, that is 2b or 2 then square root of a. So, where a and c are the numerical coefficient or absolute value of x squared and y squared respectively. So also, the relationship between a, b, and c is that a squared plus b squared is always equivalent to c squared. So parang kabaliktaran siya sa ating parabola and sa ating ellipse, kumbaga. So transverse axis or vertical, ibig sabihin, kabaliktaran nito yung ating graph, no? Nasa upper. So parang ganito yung ating graph, nasa taas and nasa baba yung ating mga openings, kumbaga. Okay? So, that is c y squared minus ax squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equivalent to 0. So, let us just compare this one ng madalian lang. If titingnan ninyo, pag ang x squared natin is positive and our y squared is negative, that is our transverse axis or horizontal. But if take note, if ang y natin is positive, then ang x natin is negative, that is vertical, yung ating transverse axis. So, horizontal and vertical. So, again, take note, length of our transverse axis is 2a or 2 square root of a na malaki. A na, eto, no? The length of our conjugate axis is 2b or 2 square root of our c. So, kabaliktaran na siya. So, where a and c are the numerical coefficient or absolute value of x squared and y squared respectively. So, yan yung mga coefficient na katabi ng x squared at y squared natin. So, also, the relationship between a, b, and c, if ganito siya, is just the same kanina, which is a squared plus b squared is equivalent to c squared. Okay, so karagdagan pa din tayong formula. This is, again, general equation. What if naka-standard equation tayo sa hyperbola? So, again, para ma-transfer mo into standard equation sa general equation, you just need to know how to use yung ating completing the square. Okay. So, for example, pag yung hyperbola natin, same sa figure natin kanina, na yung center natin is nasa ating origin, ibig sabihin po 0, yung ating D at saka yung ating E. So, pag ganyan, yung ating standard equation is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equivalent to 1. So, medyo similar lang po siya sa ating equation sa ating ellipse, but don't worry. Ang titingnan mo lang, pag ellipse kasi is dapat naka-positive silang dalawa. And take note sa ellipse, so kung sino yung mas malaki yung ating denominator, siya si a squared. Pero dito kay hyperbola, kung sino yung positive yung sign, siya si a squared. So yung negative, siya si b squared. Sir, may instances ba na positive silang dalawa? Wala po. Kasi pag positive silang dalawa, that is called as ellipse. Okay. So for example, pag si y squared yung positive, si x squared yung negative, therefore, again, kung sino yung positive na sign, siya yung a squared natin or siya yung a. So x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared, that is transverse axis horizontal. So ibig sabihin, same yung kanina, no, horizontal. Ito yung figure niya. Kumbaga. So, if we will draw that one, parang ganito siya. Ayan. Okay. So, how about if yung y squared yung positive, so yung ating figure is something like this. Ayan. So, upward and downward yung ating hyperbola. So, center at any point HK. So, for example, yung ating tawag dyan, D tsaka E natin is not equivalent to 0. So, therefore, yung ating vertex or yung ating, again, center of our hyperbola is wala sa ating centroid. or origin of our x and y axis. So therefore, for example, ganito siya, same pa din. Pag positive, sa kanya si a squared, pag negative, sa kanya si b squared. So kabaliktaran, pag kay y squared yung positive, so siya si a squared, pag negative, siya si b squared. So for example, for this one, ang figure po is something like this. Ito yung ating origin. So andito siya kumbaga. Kahit sa ano, basta kay hindi siya or wala yung or hindi located yung kanyang center sa origin. So for example, pag ganito, negative or ang positive natin is si y squared, parang ganito yung kanyang figure. So nandito yung origin, no? So malayo siya, kumbaga. Okay, so wait lang. Okay, so proceed tayo with our examples. But before that, may karagdagan pa din tayong formulas. What if hahanapin yung value ng ating eccentricity? So again, pag hyperbola, eccentricity natin is always greater than 1. So E is equivalent to C over A, or E is equivalent to A over D, no? Capital letter D. So yan lang yung pagkuha natin sa ating eccentricity. The last one, length of our latus rectum, same lang din po sa ating ellipse, no? Same lang yung figure na, pero but when we are talking about our hyperbola na drawing, this is our LR or latus rectum. So it is a line which passes through our focus and our hyperbola. So same lang din sa kabila. This is our LR or latus rectum. So pag hyperbola, ang kaniyang formula is 2b squared over a. Where again, A is our semi-major axis and B is our semi-minor axis. So again, you can obtain our centroid or center by using our completing the square, or pwede ding direct, which is negative D over 2A, and yung K natin is negative E over 2C. So let us proceed po sa ating first example for our hyperbola. So, dito nakalagay, find the eccentricity of the curve 9x squared minus 4y minus 36x plus 8y minus, that is equivalent to 4. No? So, saan siya nabulol tayo? So, therefore, in order for us to solve for the eccentricity, lagay muna natin si formula para hindi tayo malito. Eccentricity is equivalent to C over A. Ayan, nakalagay. So, lagay lang natin C over A. But take note, in order for us to get for our C and A na value, kailangan din po natin yung formula. Again, C squared is equivalent to A squared plus B squared. So, kailangan natin yan mamaya. So, therefore, in getting our C, that is C is equivalent to, lagay lang natin, the square root of our A squared plus B squared. So, mamaya na yan, no? Sa baba para hindi kasya sa space. So therefore, all we need to do is to find the value of our A and our B. In order for us to get for our C, then substitute natin lahat. So again, for this one, this is a general formula. All we need to do is to make this one as a standard formula. So, gagamitan natin ng completing the square. So, ang gagawin natin is to idikit natin, kumbaga, ilagay natin, no, 9x squared, then yung negative 36x. Then let us have a space para masulat natin mamaya. Then minus 4y squared plus 8y, then another space, then that is equivalent to 4. So again, ulitin natin, that is completing the square. That is b divided by 2 squared. So for this one, or for this part, that is 36. But before that, no, before you use your completing the square, dapat i-factor out mo muna. Dapat si x squared and si y squared is walang katabi. So therefore, this is 9x squared. Then, i-factor out natin what is 36 divided by 9, that is 4. So negative 4x na lang siya. Then, lagyan natin ng close parenthesis. For this one, minus kasi, so minus din yung ilalagay natin sa labas. Negative 4, then y squared, factor out. 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. So negative 2y is equivalent to 4. Ayan. So for this part, again, balik tayo sa completing the square. That is negative 4 divided by 2 squared. So therefore, this one is equivalent to positive 4. So how about in this part? That is b squared over 2 pa din, which is equivalent to negative 2 divided by 2 squared, which is 1 squared ng 1, or negative 1 is positive 1 pa rin. Okay, so proceed tayo. For this one, again, ang gagawin po natin, class, is to put yung ating i-add dito. So that is 9x squared minus 4x, then yung ating i-add, which is yung 4, plus 4, close parenthesis, minus 4, then y squared, minus 2y, then yung i-add natin, which is positive 1. Then sa kabila, which is same lang, 4 tsaka 1. But take note, may factor out tayo na 9, so we need to multiply that one. So 4 multiplied by 9, ilagay po natin 9. Ayan, para klaro. That is 9 multiplied by 4. Kasi may factor out tayo na 9. Hindi kagaya kanina na wala. Okay? So, plus another one is 4. So, 4, then multiplied by 1. But take note, negative 4 po tayo. So, this is wrong. This is negative 4. Ayan. Okay. So, lagay lang natin. Sakto na to. Makompleting the square na siya. So, this is x. Negative siya. So, negative 2 squared. Minus 4. Dito sa kabila is y. Negative 2. So, negative nito, negative 1 squared. So, na-complete square na po siya. Sa kabila, this is 4 plus 9 multiplied by 4 is 36. 36 plus 4 is 30. 40. 40 minus 4 is 36. So we have 36. Again, next thing and last thing that we need to do is dapat 1 yung sa other side. So therefore, we will divide everything by 36. Ito divided by 36. And this is also divided by 36. So paki-calculator po. Ayan, calculator natin. 9 divided by 36 is equivalent to 4. So therefore, x, ayan, minus 2 squared divided by 4. Minus 4 divided by 36, paki-calculator po, the result of that one is, yes, that is 9. So y minus 1 squared divided by 9. Is equivalent to 36 divided by 36 is 1. So therefore, from this, we can compare this one to our, tawag dyan, dito natin ilagay, yung ating standard formula. So again, kung sino yung negative, siya si B. So kung sino yung may hawak ng positive, siya si A. So therefore, our standard formula for this one is x minus h squared divided by a squared, kasi siya yung positive again, minus y minus k squared divided by b squared, kasi siya yung negative. So therefore, by inspection class, ang a natin squared dito is 4, which is ang a natin dito is 2, while our b squared here is 9, and ang b natin, which is a square root of 9, which is 3. So last thing that we need to do is to determine our c squared. So c is equivalent to the square root, no? Ilalagay ko na lang siya sa other side. So that is a squared plus b squared. So therefore, c is equivalent to, ready na calculators ninyo. That is 2 squared plus 3 squared. Or that is equivalent to 4 plus 9. So 4 plus 9 is equivalent to 13. So hindi siya sakto, no? C is equivalent to the square root of 13. Or if you will calculate that one, that is 3.605. Ayan. So, hindi pa tayo tapos kasi ang hinahanap natin is eccentricity. And sakto, eccentricity natin is C over A. So that is C, which is 3.605 divided by our A, which is 2. So divided by 2 lang siya kumbaga. That is equivalent to 1.8 something something. So round up na lang natin 1.8. And that is our final answer. Ayan. So medyo mahaba yung pinagdaanan natin. But again, nakuha natin yung answer which is 1.8. Okay, so this is our solution. Ayan siya, 1.8. Ayan, so let's proceed with our second problem. Second problem. We have 3 problems for our hyperbola. So eto medyo madali lang siya kasi naka-standard form na siya. We don't need to use our completing the square. Ang hinahanap kasi dito, class, is what is the equation of our asymptote. So uulitin lang natin sa ating graph, yung asymptote natin is the line which is parang hindi niya natatamaan yung ating hyperbola, and then the relationship is that is yung ating intersection of our A and our B. So dito siya mag-intersect, then i-connect mo lang siya palabas. Same din sa ating other side. Ayan siya. So what is the equation of that one? So dito, lalagay natin yung kanyang solution. So take note, class, I think wala doon sa ating formulas kanina. If you are finding the formula for your asymptote, that is y is equivalent to positive and negative kasi dalawa yun, di ba? Of our b over a then x. So take note kasi negative y siya. Pero pag si x yung negative, so baliktad lang siya. Dito is x, dito sa kabila is y. Kumbaga. Okay, so sige lang. Let us start with this one. So by inspection, titingnan natin ano yung mas kahawig sa kanya. Take note na yung ating positive is sa x na side. So therefore, if we will write its standard formula, this is our a squared, then ito yung ating b squared. Ayan. So again, tandaan natin, kung sino yung may hawak ng positive, siya si a squared. Pag negative, which is negative 4, siya si b squared. Okay, so by inspection, ang a squared po natin dito is 9, which is ang square root ng 9 is 3. Then next one is b squared natin is 4. Then ang square root ng 4 is exactly 2. So therefore, substitute lang po natin y is equivalent to, again, dalawang answer natin dito kasi positive and negative. So positive, negative, b natin is 2 over 3x. So, i-cross multiplication lang po natin. Ito papunta sa kabila. So, therefore, magiging 3y is equivalent to 2x. So, parang ganyan lang siya. So, ilipat lang natin sa kabila para standard equation siya for our line. That is equivalent to 2x. Again, positive and negative yan siya pwede. Is equivalent 2x. Lang, ayan. Again positive and negative siya pwede. Positive and negative. So, positive muna tayo. 2x plus 3y or 2x minus 3y. Kasi lipat lang natin to the other side. Is equivalent to 0. Or pwede din siyang ilipat sa kabila. Magiging 2x plus 3y is equivalent to 0. So, ito yung answer, ito yung answer. These are our equations of our asymptotes. Okay, so tingnan nyo lang sa board exam, for example, no, kung saan doon sa choices. So, last example for our hyperbola. So, ang hinahanap po natin is semi-transverse axis. So, ibig sabihin ng semi-transverse axis, yung hinahanap po natin is yung A. 'Di ba? Pag hindi semi, pag transverse axis yung hinahanap, 2A. Kumbaga, okay? So, medyo madali lang to, no? So, same, I think the same lang sila. Ayan. So, same lang sila ng equation kanina, therefore, same lang din sila. Yung hinahanap natin again is yung A natin, no? Semi-transverse axis. So, dito is x squared divided by 9, that is positive. So, therefore, siya si A squared. minus y squared over b squared kasi siya yung negative. So therefore, in this case, ulitin lang natin yung ginawa natin kanina. A squared natin is 9. Then therefore, ang a po natin is the square root of 9, which is, again, that is 3. Then for this one, b squared natin plus is 4. Therefore, ang b po natin is the square root of 4, which is 2. Ayan. So, wait lang. Let me just adjust this one. Okay. So, next thing, again, the length of our transverse axis is the value of our a, which is equivalent to 3. And that is our final answer. Ayan. So, we're done with our conical sections, which is yung last part natin is si hyperbola. So let us proceed with our last topic for analytic geometry, which is polar coordinates. So as you have remembered, yung first topic natin is called as rectangular coordinates, diba? So polar coordinates refers to the coordinates of a point in a system of coordinates where the position of a point is determined by the length of the ray segment, which is the radius vector, from a fixed origin or the pole, and the angle or the polar angle, the ray, which is the vector, makes with a fixed line or the polar axis. So i-compare lang po natin ng madalian lang po. Pag rectangular coordinate, that is our x-axis and our y-axis, kumbaga x and y. While if we are talking about polar coordinates, our x is our r or the length of our ray, kumbaga, then our y is our theta, which is the angle from our x-axis of our line or our vector, kumbaga. So polar angle is sometimes called as vector angle, the argument, the amplitude, or the azimuth of a point. So that are its different meaning or different nila ng mga names. So here, for example, we have a drawing. We have a pole, or ito yung reference point natin, kumbaga. This is our polar axis, this is our polar angle, and this is our radius vector. So kung gaano siya kahaba. So for example, here we have our x and y axis. So ito yung ating r, or our radius of our ray, or our length of our ray. Ito yung ating theta, which is yung ating angle of our ray. Then, therefore, our coordinates here is r and theta. So, what are the relationship between polar coordinates and rectangular coordinates? Yung mga formulas nila. Therefore, if ganito yung ating drawing, ang x po natin dito is equivalent to r cosine theta. Diba? As we all know, SOHCAHTOA. So if we are talking about sine, that is equivalent to O over H, or opposite over hypotenuse. And referring to our figure, ang opposite po natin ng theta is y, then ang ating hypotenuse po is r. So y is equivalent to r sine theta kasi nilagay lang po yung r sa kabila. How about si r cosine theta? So ibig sabihin is cosine theta is equivalent to our adjacent na side divided by our hypotenuse. And for this one, ang adjacent po natin is x. Yung hypotenuse naman din natin is r. So therefore, if you will transfer yung r sa kabila, you can create this formula or relationship between them is x is equivalent to r cosine theta. So therefore, ang r po natin, same dito, Pythagorean theorem lang po tayo, that is equivalent to square root of x squared plus y squared. So therefore, we can also solve for our theta, which is our arctan of y over x. So saan po ito galing? Same pa din, SOHCAHTOA, tangent theta is equivalent to our opposite, which is our y, divided by our adjacent, which is our x. So, nilipat lang sa kabila, magiging arctan. Okay, so let's proceed with its example. So, what if bibigyan tayo ng, tawag dito, circle na radius and its center of the circle. So, hahanapin po natin, we will convert the equation of our circle into a polar equation. Pero ang problema natin first is what is the equation of our circle in terms of rectangular na coordinates or rectangular na equation. Okay, so take note, balik tayo sa topic natin kanina, which is our circle. We have a general or be specific, no? Specific natin na formula, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equivalent to our r squared. And take note, binigyan po tayo ng radius class, which is 3, and yung center po natin is nasa 3, 0. And if we are talking about our center, this is our h and this is our k. So we can substitute this one to our specific, no, na formula. So therefore, dito lagyan natin x minus, ang h po natin is 3. So lagyan lang natin 3 squared plus y minus ang k po natin is 0 squared. And then r natin is 3 squared. Ayan. So next thing that we need to do is just expand, kumbaga. So dito na part, gagamitan natin siya ng FOIL method, x minus 3 multiplied by x minus 3. Dito sa kabila, simplify lang natin kasi 0 naman din to, y squared is y squared. Then 3 squared is 9. Okay po. So pag FOIL method, di ba, lagyan natin FOIL for our x minus 3 multiplied by x minus 3. That is, first, x times x is x squared. Then, outer, x multiplied by negative 3, that is negative 3 ulit. X, then dito sa loob, which is also negative 3x. The last thing is negative 3 multiplied by negative 3 is positive 3. What happened? Ayan. That is positive 9. Then, for this one, plus y squared is equivalent to 9. So, let us just combine like terms, kumbaga. So, ito is magiging x squared, negative 3x minus negative 3x. So, makombine siya. That is negative 6x. Then, 9. Then, may 9 din tayo dito. So, pwede ma-cancel out or pwede din i-transfer mo sa kabila. So, that is 9 minus 9 is 0. So, therefore, ang remaining natin is eto. So, again, ang task po natin is gawin siyang polar equation or polar coordinate na style. And take note kanina, sa ating equation, we have x is equivalent to r cosine theta, which is pinakita natin para na-derive, and y is equivalent to r sine theta. Okay, so therefore, susulat na lang natin dito sa my right side, x is equivalent to r cosine theta, and y is equivalent to r sine of theta. And we need to substitute this one to our equation. So x squared, palitan natin si x ng r cosine of theta. Minus 6, then another x na ulit siya, r cosine of theta. Kumbaga. And then, for this one, sa y, same din kanina, palitan lang natin ng r sine of theta squared is equivalent to 0. Okay, so for this one, yung may mga r, ipagtabi na lang natin siya, then i-factor out natin si r para mas okay siya. So, dito, si cosine squared tsaka si sine squared, ipagtatabi ko siya, r cosine theta plus r, yan, klaro natin, plus r sine. Pwede din i-distribute na lang natin siya, class. Wait lang. Distribute natin yung squared para mas klaro. So, gagawin ko, eto, ilagay ko sa loob, magiging r squared, then cosine squared theta. Sir, what happened? Bakit nasa gitna yung squared? So, take note, class, cosine squared theta is just the same with cosine theta, then nasa labas yung squared. But again, if ilalagay mo cosine theta squared, which is yung theta lang yung squared, that is not the same. So, eto and eto is the same, pero pag ganito is hindi. So, therefore, distribute mo nasa gitna. Or, pwede mong lagyan ng open and close parenthesis. Silang lahat dapat yung may squared. Okay? So, eto, ipagtabi ko lang siya, plus r squared. Same pa din, sine squared theta or sine theta tapos nasa labas yung squared. Then etong 6, ilalagay ko na lang sa other part. Eto, sa other side, 6 r cosine of theta. Okay, so for this one, r squared is ipa-factor out ko. So, ipapalabas ko siya, magiging cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equivalent to 6r cosine theta. And tingnan natin if masimplify pa ba siya o hindi. So, balik tayo sa trigonometry ninyo na subject. I hope that na topic to. Pero pag hindi, okay lang, no? Let us just review that one. Meron tayong trigonometric identity, which is tinatawag natin na Pythagorean identity, which is sinasabi doon na pag meron tayong cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta, that is equivalent to, yes, pakitingnan sa notes ninyo, or sa Google, kumbaga, that is equivalent to 1. So therefore, this one is pwede mong gawing 1. So therefore, this one is equivalent to r squared is equivalent to 6r cosine theta. And meron tayong r, so cancel out. R is equivalent to 6 cosine theta, which is our final answer. Ayan. So therefore, this is our polar equation of this graph or this equation in rectangular equation, kumbaga, of our circle. Okay, so that's it. So I hope that you have learned something sa lahat ng na-topic natin for our analytic geometry. So see you again next time sa ating other topics. Goodbye.